Welcome, Indira.
Hey, glad to be here with you.
You too.
I
What do you want to talk about?
don't know. That's the best part.
Right?
It was just really nice conversing with you this week. It felt like we were just speaking the same language. It was really nice to share with you, and that you were kind of like, yeah, yeah, exactly. And some of these things I don't feel comfortable like talking to other people about. Um, in the beginning, yeah, there was very much excitement. And I learned that not everybody is interested, or they say they are, uh but it's okay either way. It's totally okay either
Yeah, that's fun learning that not
way.
everybody cares about awakening or whatever word you want to put it on it. Like in the beginning, there can be like a Zen stink, you know? Have you ever
Yeah.
heard that term?
Zen steak?
Hmm.
No, I've never heard of that, but
It's like when you're trying to wake people up, you know, and you you're just excited and you think you know something, so you're you're trying to
yeah,
bring people with you on the journey.
yeah. I was just excited. There were a handful of people that I felt safe to just share this opening, this clear seeing that seemingly happened, right? So it just felt good to express it. And even that was perfect, you know? Um, and like I had said to you, one person I spoke to said, oh yeah, I get it. I get it. I've studied that. I've studied it. And in that moment, I was like, okay, you know, said, no, you don't study this. Can't study this.
Yeah, it's almost like knowing a secret that's socially not acceptable to talk about.
It's just so simple. The question arose a while back, what if everyone is awake? You know, I actually did a video on it, and then I didn't post it, but it was like everyone has this. Everyone.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me, that everybody is awake.
Yeah. And even if they're not seeing it, it's still perfect. You know, my one brother is a born again Christian, and he's really into it, and that's perfect. There's just no judgment on what they're doing or anyone else is doing. It's just, yeah, it's just this. I just feel so grateful to to feel this. And there's no, like I had shared with you before, I got rid of all of those books. I had so many books, A Course in Miracles, Bible, the you name it, anything on awareness, thoughts. And I got rid of it. There's just no reason to look at that anymore. But it's really cool because I mean, even now, the curiosity is just curiosity. I have a book by Muji, and he's got poems and stuff in there. And I never really looked into it until after, I think it was November of last year, until seeing clearly. I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Like everything in there makes sense. Everything he's talking about makes sense. And yeah,
Yeah, he's got his own style. There's a lot of different styles, you know. A lot of non-dual people knock Muji and things like that, and certain other teachers like Adyashanti, but I mean, I can hear it in what they're saying. They just have different way of saying it, you know. They talk about awareness and consciousness and things like that. But I really enjoyed going back and listening to some of that old stuff because I could click with it now. It's like, oh, okay, that's what they meant, you know.
Yeah. The words don't bother me anymore. Because I know I can sense what they're talking about very clearly. It's just so obvious. It's as if it's as if I'm talking through them, you know. So I sometimes I listen to Muji at night just for sleep purposes because his voice is just so soft.
Hmm.
But there's not a part of me that's like, oh, before there was more the sensation of trying to get was a little bit of jealousy going on in here as well. I want to be just like them. Aggravation, anger came up during that process. And if I just look at this enough, then maybe I'll have this pop, you know, and none of that ever happened. None of it ever happened. Um, and it wasn't until and I don't remember the questions till this moment, but it wasn't until I did inquiry questions that were asked of me that I never thought to feel into, not think, but feel into. And that's when it was like, oh, holy shit. It's right here. It's this. This is it right here. And now as seeming time has gone by, it's emotions, sensations. Um, to me, this is more real than anything I've ever tried. Everything I've ever tried, I feels felt very artificial or just that because that seeking energy has dropped, then there's more now. It's just um, it's more seeing. There's not that. I'd like to say drop. That's what it feels like. It just dropped. It's more relaxation. To,
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's not something that anybody does, which blows my mind, like still to this day. Uh, I mean, I thought I knew what this was. I thought that I was ready and prepared and that's what I wanted. And um, really we don't know what it is until it's seen, you know. Um, and there's no doing it. It's like a drop, like you said,
yeah.
like a hot potato.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think inquiry is powerful. Just asking, is that true? I mean, um, who am I? Didn't really do anything for me. uh,
Yeah.
but but I was able to ask, is that true? And look at my own thoughts and see through them more and more and more over time until I could see through the assuming thought, the base thought that I am, which really isn't even verbal. It's just an assumption. Like it's so subtle, you know. But to get behind that is it's like stepping into another dimension in a way, even though nothing changes, you know, it's just like seeing it from a different perspective. Mm. To
That's
me,
beautiful.
it's very practical to me, you know.
Yeah, for me, it was I had joined this website called LU, and I was prime. I was ripe. I just felt ripened, and uh, there were guides, and they would shoot questions over, and I'd wake up at 3 in the morning just to sit and feel that. I just wanted to see. I wanted to see, and some of the questions felt like it was a trick question, but it wasn't a trick question. It was just a thought that was saying it was a trick thought, a trick question. When I felt into it, there was a, oh wow. And then I would just be typing the answer and then noticing that what I was typing was thought. Like it was just so obvious. And then I would respond and say, well, there's typing happening. What I just wrote was just a thought. And there's breathing sensations. And all of a sudden there was attention on this, on the breathing, the sights, smelling, what the body was doing. When I reach for this, when this cup in the morning of drinking this tea, whenever this body reaches for the tea, there's no thought to it. When I drink this, when there's drinking, there's no thought saying, well, you have to swallow and then digest. Same thing, the same thing with walking. It amazes me still when I walk, when I'm walking in the park, there's no thought. It would be crazy. Can you imagine thoughts saying, well, you got to walk this way and walk this? It would be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. There's no thought to the body moving. It's just doing it on its own. And then all of a sudden there was this relaxation, and then there was this freedom. Do you know, like you were talking about downloads. Oh my gosh, so many things started coming up, past and memories, and then there was this heart opening to all the things that I did or the character did for all those years that was labeled bad. There was compassion for why I did all those things, because behind everything that I did was see me and love me. Just see me and love me. And how can there be judgment towards that, or hate or anything? And yeah, yeah.
It's crazy how going from just having this base assumption that I am the thinker, I'm the doer, I'm the liver, I got to figure this out, I'm responsible. And that being sort of like a background music in your life or something like that, like the base assumption. Um, it feels like pure anxiety to me. I was never comfortable with it. I never could just like relax into being a person. It seemed. But as soon as that's seen through like a fog, or like when you see that a rainbow isn't real, you know, like seeing through an illusion, um, it just changes everything. It changes the past, like you said, like you're able to have compassion for the first time, because there's only innocence. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's just this freedom expressing how it does. Um, and it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. The clarity of just this. There's no conceptual truth in that. Um,
Hmm.
you know, which is what we think we're going to get. We're going to get some conceptual truth eventually that's going to make us wise, or um, no longer have dense emotions and thoughts and all the things that we think when we're seeking.
Hmm.
But simplicity is more like bewilderment. I mean, clarity is more like bewilderment to me. It's just like awe. Like, how is this here? You know, how is this possible? Um, and believing in yourself like an entity makes you blind to that wonder.
Mm. Yeah, very beautiful. And I wanted to, it just came up talk about thoughts too. That was a huge thing too. Thinking that if I become liberated, that there would be, the thoughts would be extradicated, and that was far from the truth. Well, it was far from the truth of this, very, very far from it. And like I had shared with you before, it's just, it feels really freeing that there is nothing to do with their, they just arise on its own. um, and um, and now there's more like integration with people, um, and there's a noticing that, like, for example, 2 days ago feels like forever now, but there is a memory of having a cold and going to work, and um, then the thoughts came up, well, what are the coworkers are going to think, and they're going to think you have COVID or blah 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 blah. It was just going off and just going, just, and I was just, it was interesting to just feel it and just see it come up and just watch it. And then there was like a release of that. And then the whole day, none of that happened.
Mm.
Like none of it happened. And and I can see these thoughts when they come up as fear, protective. Um, there's a protectiveness about them, and also an innocence. And I can feel that and see that when they do come up. And each time that they come up and there's a feeling and seeing into it, and then there's a break. When I say break, a dropping, in other words, it's just not believing in it. It's like waking up to it, to myself, over and over. I'm waking up to it. It's waking up to itself each time, because in that space there's freedom. And but there's freedom even with when thoughts come up, right? But I don't know.
Oh, you
You know what
described
I mean?
that so well. Gosh,
Yeah.
I'll have to try to remember how you said that. Um, which is ridiculous to say, right? Things like that come out of our mouth.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me make a note of that, as if it means anything at all or anything's going to happen. um, the playfulness, like hearing words come out of my mouth, like being cordial, playing along with a conversation about a story with others. And I mean, I can get into it, or I can just kind of be giggling at it, and like like a part of me is just like, none of this shit is real. You know what I mean? And I'm almost like comforting them in a way, because they believe what they're saying. And um I'm not saying that the world isn't real and that we don't have a physical universe. I mean, I have no way to know that. But when you can see through the stories, that language is so far removed from what's actual, and symbols and thoughts, that they actually don't refer to anything at all. They're so abstract. Um, and just to like really see that is, it's so freeing, especially for somebody who, you know, was so dissociated inside their head for so long, speaking for myself. But yeah, it's I almost thought that all of these people that were talking about awakening were just like delusional, and they were lying to themselves, and this was something that wasn't real. And I would never, reach, so to say. But um it's more simple than simple. It's more obvious than obvious.
Mm.
It's the miracle that we can pretend like that it's not what is. you know
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. there's a noticing also for me. Like everything that's coming out, I'm not going to remember in a minute. It's like gone. It's already gone. Or converting with other people, or like what you were sharing, having conversations with others, and then it's done. It kind of reminds me of like a dog, this pit bull. When he barks, he gets all riled up, he gets anxious, there's anxiety in him, his calyx go up, and then he's done. Um, he's hungry, he eats, and then he's done. It's gone. It's done. There's no, and the same thing with me. It just feels like, um, a lot of things feel, I guess, like warp speed, you know, like I was sharing with, forgive me, I'm like going to share some of the stuff I shared with you on the
Oh
phone, but
yeah,
it's
go ahead.
just, like, um, even a conversation I had with someone a while back, there was a disagreement, and then there was a coming together, and then it was done. It's like it's gone. It's There's nothing to hold on to anymore, and that's the freeing part. And there's guilt may arise at times, or shame may arise at times, a feeling of shame or uncomfortability, but it's seen and felt. And at first I thought, is everything okay? Am there was doubts about, because it just felt like emotions and everything was just so raw. And I slowly realized that it's part of that. This that you and I are speaking of, that there's just no words for it, is part of it all. Laughter, joy, anger, sadness, grief that comes up for me at times. When my mother passed away, oh my gosh, there was so much crying, and just letting the body weep. And then in a couple hours, I was okay. So there's an okayness to everything, rather than thoughts will come up, and of course it'll have an assumption or opinion or whatever, uh, and that's noticeable. And yet, when I look at it, it's innocent. It's just it's okay. There's like an
Mhm.
okayness to it.
Yeah, it just I think it will forever blow my mind that this I could not imagine what this would be like. And it's why I wanted to, talk about it. Like just innocently. Um
Mhm.
the fleeting nature, it sometimes can be kind of scary. Even the thoughts of like, wow, this is out of control, like that can come up sometimes, and like a body sensation around it, and it passes quickly. Um, I like to say anything can still arise.
Absolutely. You know, I'm not an AI. I'm not a robot. I'm still a human being with emotions and feelings and all of that.
Yeah, it's funny how I don't know how this happens, but when we're seeking, we can have this convoluted belief system that I'm going to get to this place where I have a protective bubble around me, and bad emotions won't be in there, and only pleasant thoughts. And you know I guess we learn that from idolizing so-called saints and people like that.
We
um
were taught to, I think for me, I was taught to feel better and to feel good right away. That whenever there is an uncomfortable motion, to just numb out or just not feel. At least for me, that was taught growing up. And in some ways, if I really want to be honest, that seeking, I remember Angelo saying to me, one time, and it stood out in my head. He said, "It's not what you expect," and it just never left me. And he was right. It's it's not what this mind imagined or wished that it could be or should be. It's not. It's nothing like that. And so, in some ways, when that dropped, the comparing to others or that jealousy kind of like just dropped. Because when I look at you, I see myself. When I look at Lisa Carnes, we're just really all the same, just in different bodies, different shapes. You know, I forgot where I was going with all that. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a relaxing of the conceptual grasping and knowing, or trying to project what this would be like. Or are the thoughts about, am I there? Am I close? Am I, you know, or what, it'll be soon, it'll be soon. And now looking back, it's almost like that was an avoidant energy, sort of dancing around this that's always here. Um,
Mm.
the subconscious mind is so clever,
Mm.
you know. I think it's the one doing all the playing and uh seeking and all that. Not as an autonomous being, but just as the automatic pattern in nature, just like any other natural phenomenon. And then there was a sort of a relaxing just to look, because I was like, okay, it's something, it's here. I'm just not seeing it. So it was just like sort of like a waiting, or like a calmness,
Mm-hmm.
or just like watching thoughts and being like, that's a thought, that's a thought. And it reminds me of that saying, being at the gateless gate, or something like that. And then you can get the visceral sensations of fear, because you're not entertaining yourself with thoughts about what's next. And that's what's comforting, that's the comfort blanket.
Mm.
um and it's something about that, it's like a pregnant space, it's just like something else can come through and be seen, the obvious. And then it can't be unseen. But I mean, it's always been this way. I know that makes it sound like something that happened, right?
Yeah, no, it's 3 years old, 4 years old, 10 years old. It's always been there. Here. It throughout my entire life of living, it's always been here. It's and like you were saying with the seeking, what I feel is that there is no way in hell now I can look back. There's no way that I would have ever been able to see this, because I was so caught up with the thought, a beautiful thought that's like, well, maybe if we meditate more, or maybe we go to a retreat, or, something enticing. And when I look back at that, wow, it was very clever. Doesn't want to see this. It's like, because when I was like, what? It was like, wow. There was a bit of shock, disappointment, and also exciting, because it was like all this, like, because it's so damn simple. it's no big hurrah. There's no burning bush outside my window for me to become. And I didn't even understand the word liberation. What the hell does that mean? Enlightenment, liberation, enlightenment. What was the other word? I didn't.
Self-realization.
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant. I just knew what I could see clearly. The song, I could see clearly. That's all. It's
Oh,
simple.
yeah.
That's all it is. Um and there hasn't been much change, really. I mean, everything is I've talked about visuals before. I've had these visuals years ago, but I didn't know what it was either. That was another thing too, and it just became more pronounced uh, somewhere last year. Um, and I can remember um, even after, well, during that time, everything in my apartment, like just everything just is just so intimate, so it's just so so it's like being a child, like wow, just there's like an intimacy with it, and it kind of was like, am I okay? I had to call up another friend that understands that's on this pathless path, and she goes, your filters, there's just no more filters, you know and there was just so much attention on thought, like you were saying, that it also changes the system of the body. The body's not used to, has not been used to attention being just placed on senses and sense gates, and uh, it was so used to stories and tomorrow and
Yeah, absolutely.
agreement, and there I was, but this was always here,
Yeah.
here, and I'm so I'm somewhere, with the thoughts and every thought frame,
Right.
what he did, and it's like, now it's like, okay, they're arising. Okay, I see what's happening. Okay. Hmm. And there's just not an agreement.
Yeah, it's like a little kid running up to you with a coloring page and saying, "Look what I did." And you're like, "Oh, that's great. Good job." And then they
Exactly.
run off. That's what thoughts are like now.
Yeah, yeah. You said that so well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
When before they meant something, they um yeah, there were so many emotions and it was gradual. There was no like one moment where everything dropped. It seemed very gradual. I couldn't really pinpoint a when. It was in a few days there. And there were so many feelings and emotions all at once. There was just like utter hilarity, um, this desperate, hopeless melancholy and despair, uh, which is so strange to have those two at the same time. Um, and yeah, just being with whatever is. I mean, like the flow of where attention goes, like to thoughts, the body, sounds and different things in your environment, and how it's so automatic, like the flow, the shifting. Um, and there's no more like the sticky, compelling draw to go to refer to thoughts for information to like lead me or guide me or um make me better. Uh, and it seems like you can diffuse that energy into, or it's naturally diffused into like this, whatever's going on. Um, it was a little scary, giving that up. I could see why it just kind of like took so long for the body to acclimate and the nervous system and everything. Um, but you don't really give anything up because it was never there. There was never a source of information. There was never um, anything that could keep up in time to manipulate anything. It's too immediate. It's too already.
yeah, it's very, very free.
but not for anyone.
Yeah, there's nothing, that was another thing too that dropped too, was the specialness. There's no, it's just yeah,
Very humbling.
yeah, very humbling.
I
And
can't, it's hard to take yourself seriously.
yeah, some the mind, I remember this mind would say, had these ideas, and such ridiculous, like, well, you have to be this way, or you have to move somewhere else to find enlightenment or to find out who you are. And when I just ponder on those thoughts right now, it's ridiculous because it's, I mean, I could be taking a shower and I can clearly see, you know what I mean? It's here always. Yeah, I liked what you said. That was so true. There's even when words come out, there's a noticing, and it doesn't even matter anymore. It doesn't. It's like whatever we're talking, whatever I'm saying right now is not going to matter in a minute, or
You don't have to get it right because you can't get it right.
it's gone already. It's gone. And that's the freeingness of it. There was just so much. I think for me, there was feeling this, there was this controlling energy, that there was something that I had to do. But then I had to ask myself, well, then who is it in here that feels like they have to do something? Where is this? There's an urgency. But then when I really look, it's a thought behind the urgency, or next to it. At first the thought, then there's that feeling we have to do something. And I mean, yeah, practical things as you would share before, get up in the morning, take a shower, and pay the bills, and make dinner. There's still preferences here. I still have preferences.
Yeah.
I still I love the cold.
Mhm.
Love, I love, there's a loving of the change of seasons, and
Mhm.
um, preference in eating and all of that. But it's not for anyone. It's just, it's,
It's almost like you become the change in seasons,
yeah, yeah,
in a way. I remember hearing people say, I became the environment. I was the trees. And I was like, what? Like trying to imagine
yeah.
what that would be like. And it's really, really ordinary. It's just like there's no conceptual abstraction overlay that's fogging your space. And and then when you look at a tree, you can get lost in it. There's no you in that. There's just the seeing or feeling or hearing or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah, yeah. I mean, last year when this was happening, I mean, it has tapered out. I mean, it's not like every time I look at a tree, I feel like I'm going into it. But I do have preferences of nature, and it still to me appears close. Everything appears close.
Mm.
Like you said, I guess the conceptual and the filters are just not there. Um, but I
Yeah,
I
the knowing what it is, that's a big filter.
yeah, there's no knowing. It's just beautiful to me. Even animals, all everything.
Yes.
Just uh,
Yeah, even people.
what's that?
Even people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Even a memory of my coworker working with me. Just I could feel his frustration and my frustration because we're tired, we're just so tired. And that's what happens when the body is tired. Annoyances arise, of course. For me, it does. And impatience does come up. And I could feel it with him. And, even that was beautiful.
Yeah.
At the moment, it didn't feel that way. But then
No.
as it's getting off the plane, it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like immediately after, it's like, wow, that just happened. And it's
Yeah.
sort of like a fascination with it, that it could happen. And then it's just
Yeah.
gone. It's a memory and
Yeah.
uh
He's
even
gone.
it's remembered. Yeah. And I think that's really important for anybody who's going to speak about this to say is that, hey, yeah, I'm capable of getting frustrated. There's no like holy person here. Um, it is an acceptance, but it's not an acceptance that anybody does. Yeah, it's just like a season, like the season of acceptance. You know.
Yeah. And like what we were talking about before, kindness just arises. It doesn't make me special or anything, just like anger arises. Or sometimes I may say something, and
Mhm. Yeah.
it doesn't mean that there may not be an amend or something that can be said or done or not, but it just feels it feels okay, like it's okay.
Yeah.
There be thoughts of guilt, like around it, and I have to do this, and oh, there's
Yeah, it's
nothing.
like guilt is just guilt. There's no guilt about the guilt. And shame is just shame. There's no shame about being shameful. It's just like it doesn't take it all away, but there's this massive layer of abstract delusion that is just lifted or drops. And even when there's resistance, there's no resistance. So it's very subtle and it's hard to like describe.
Abstract delusion, I like that. Like there was an abstract delusion uh, in my thinking, in this thinking mind, that if I read enough of A Course in Miracles, and if I read enough of the the lessons, then I'll get it, and then I'll be this. It'll be with me 24 hours a day. And what I was, the delusion was thinking that, again, thinking that the peace, that I could experience peace all day long. So the difference is, so there is peace here, which has never left. It's quiet, it's neutral, it's always been here. Um, and yet there are thoughts that arise at sometimes, and then there are emotions that arise. All three, but it's happening here in this moment. It's inevitable. There's no control over it when it does happen. See, but I thought that if I read enough of A Course in Miracles, then I wouldn't have to experience any trauma. I wouldn't have to experience any sadness. I wouldn't have to experience maybe pop up grievances or anger or any of that. And that's not true.
And that was one reason why I wanted to talk about this because I was like, oh my gosh, like people think you're gonna just be like Jesus Christ walking around or Mother Mary, uh,
Yeah.
which is beautiful and innocent. It's like a little kid watching Disney movies or something. But the peace is in the frustration with it at the same time. It's
Mm,
the perfection of the imperfect. Um,
that's
and
beautiful. I love that. I'll forget it, but that was beautiful. Yes, that's exactly it. It feels like that. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
the last sort of place you want to go and the last thing you suspected, because we don't sit around and suspect it because it's not what we want, you know. We want to keep the good and be victorious and defeat the bad and like a spiritual war or something, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but love is all inclusive, you know, if you want to describe it as unconditional love or unconditional freedom. Um, it's that allows all, you know. Um, you
Yeah,
can see.
there's like a gentleness with myself, I can say, with the things that this body does. Sometimes there may be a judgment that arises or an opinion, but then what's more in the forefront is this. And there's just the thoughts and all of that's like back here, but this is more in the forefront because attention is more in this. Yeah, it's very hard to put into words, but there's, um, yeah,
Yeah, it almost is like a background foreground kind of shift. Like thoughts were here and now they're way back there.
yeah, yeah. They still come up. There's no
Hmm.
operation to get them out.
Sometimes it's like they're back there with a fishing pole and they're just like fishing towards you. And it usually doesn't catch anything, but sometimes it will.
That was like the biggest clarity for me too back in November. For you, it was December, right before you. I had so many questions. I would look at Eckhart Tolle too, and there was this idea. Oh wow, he doesn't have any thoughts. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't even matter anymore. Because it just doesn't matter. It, there's like a it just doesn't matter. There's I want to say a fullness. There's a safety. I don't know how to put words to it, but that it doesn't even matter. All those thoughts that I was entertaining for so long, and like you said before, too, thoughts do become lighter. I mean, they're there, and sometimes they can feel like flies at times, but um, it's okay. And that's the relaxation. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and
Mm,
it's like you said, there's a more immediate remembering, like, oh, that's not true.
yeah,
That's just an energy of a symbol and a sound, and it's already gone.
yeah. Everything from the time this body wakes up, or when I seeming looking back, it was, I remember the dialogue would be, my thoughts would just start telling me to do this and do that. And there was just so much anger over it and all of that. But there's still thoughts that come when I awaken, but it's okay. It's that whole feeling that doership is just dropped. And so it's all right. It's just,
Yeah, it's just appearing
yeah.
out of nowhere.
No,
My thoughts were very cruel before, and they still can be. Um, but you know, it's much calmer and less often. You know, I can even still get a thought like, I hate myself.
yeah.
It's just so repetitive. I've thought it so many times. It's like there's a neural network of that thought that just every once in a while it gets a spark.
Yeah,
There's there's no there's no belief in it, so it's just gone already.
yeah.
And but it still can pop up. It's so strange.
Mhm.
Mm.
Crazy thoughts like, whoa, and I had a memory of when I was 10 years old. Um, uh, my culture, the culture that I come from, my father's Puerto Rican and my mother's Trinidadian, and they have this Indian thing. Back, I was 10 years old. Long story short, there was this memory of me at 10 years old attending a funeral, and we call grandmother's Ma. Her name was Ma, and she of course, her body, she was gone in from the body. But I can remember standing there and listening to everyone cry. You know, everybody was getting upset, and I was so, there was a neutralness to her death, and I'm thinking, why is everybody getting so upset? What's the big, you know, what was the, I didn't understand what the big deal was at that age. You know, it was just, and fast forward to now, it's, yes, of course it's going to be crying, but I knew, there was like a knowing at that age already, you know, that that neutrality was there, and that's been coming up in the last couple of months. That neutrality, like I knew that she was fine. The body, I had no reaction to it. The body was gone, but her essence, I didn't even know about essence, but there was that neutrality at that age was there, and I remember that feeling. And then what happened was, a part of me was like, okay, I'll act. I'll act just like them. And I just started crying. It was almost like being in a movie. And I started crying, and that's when, I think at a very young age, how I learned to become reactive.
Mm.
Does that make sense? Like, you know, like to just to become reactive over anything. Reaction started. It was almost,
Yeah, it was actually about 10 years old for me when it first occurred to me that I wished I was never born because I was so self-conscious. That's when it started, the self-consciousness. And I never could just like feel like I was a kid, you know. Uh Kids run around and play and they're silly and they don't care about what they look like or how they sound or anything like that. Um and I had passed the point of no return on that. Like I was so anxious in class because of just thinking about what other people thought of me, you know. Um, and I couldn't act natural anymore. I was trying to act the way I thought was the most acceptable way to act, you know. And I mean, that's the definition of hell for me. And, you know, I lived that way for years. It started getting a little bit better in my 30s when I started seeking and uh, meditating and things like that. It eased up. But now it's just massively much better. The self-consciousness, because I know that there's no one doing it. It's just it's just a pattern. Which ironically just really relaxes the whole thing. It takes away a lot of the neuroticism.
yeah,
Mm.
not caring. Yeah, yeah, not caring what the thoughts are saying about what other people are thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It feels good to not care in that sense. It just feels, it's it feels free in that sense.
Yeah.
I can be who I, just this, who I am, um, nameless.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels good not to need to make a person. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, hey, you look at me this way, like, and then that'll validate me and I'll be more of this person. It's so strange how we create ourselves in that way, you know, with reflections of other people. Um,
Big chameleon. Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like I can, you know, because we all have natural personalities and natural, just the way these individuals are. And I feel like here I can just be whatever it's going to be, you know. Uh,
Your energy is so relaxed. It's just so relaxed and down to earth. I love it. It's it's beautiful.
you too.
Yeah.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
No, I thought
Oh,
about it, but oh wait, I do have a YouTube channel, but there's I don't I'm not doing any videos or anything like that.
okay. I was wondering because you said something about posting a video or
Yeah,
something.
I thought about it like about 8 months ago, but it's okay.
Yeah. I love the way you speak. So,
And there's no one letting go. What's it just drops. It's dropping. Yeah, I was so involved with, and sometimes I still go to an Al-Anon group from time to time. So it really helped relax the person. When I look back, it was beautiful. It was I don't there's no everything that has happened here in this body, everything that I've ever done, there's just no regret. All of it was all innocent
Mhm.
and beautiful. And sometimes I just go with curiosity, and there's no expectation anymore when I go there. There used to be an expectation to feel better, but now it's just just to sit, and the body likes connecting with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun just be freaking weird and like, connect with other weird people.
You said you like sci-fi, so do I. Love sci-fi. I love it. Have you
Me
ever
too.
watched Aliens? Did you like Aliens? That movie Aliens?
Like the old one in the 80s.
Prometheus and
Yeah, yeah. I've seen gosh, I barely remember it now. I may have to watch it again.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like falling in love with just ordinary humanness.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that, oh my God, that is so beautiful. That's where the gentleness comes in for me. Yeah. You know, there used to be like a reflecting on the anger or that came up, and I could have done this or could have done that whole dialogue. And no, it's okay. It's, there's a gentleness about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it to me it's like a miracle that like I thought I was gonna become something better, right?
Mm.
Like a butterfly, be reborn. But this is even better than what I imagined because this is me being okay just as I am. That's even better because that's love, you know what I mean? Not having to be anything specific.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Just be how I am just now. Just this is it. I don't have to, it's just, yeah. It's it's still hard, to talk about, like I don't know. I'm glad that you asked to share some things here about the emptiness or whatever, even though there's no word. I call it emptiness, beingness, whatever. Um, it's just more of like a quietness. And but when I talk to you, there's like, I don't know, there's more of the gift of gab. I got all these ideas, and I feel like with you, I feel like it's like water, like we're speaking the same language. I can't go to my brother and say, um, or express, well, I guess I could. I mean, I've done that, but there's it's like there's a safety with certain people that I feel like I can share with. And sometimes it just comes out. And it just comes out, and even that's okay too. But when I talk to you, it feels really good because I feel like we're speaking the same language.
Yeah, me too. I feel like we're in the same place or something. I know that's not a very good way of describing it, but
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just a heart opening, and when I'm with my family, and it's just it's good. It's it's a relaxation.
yeah, kind of like when you disappear when you're looking at a tree, you can disappear while you're listening to somebody's story about anything.
Uh,
Just admiring them and everything about them.
yeah, in the beginning, when this seeming pop happened, there's a tree outside my window. Every morning, I would just like, um, well, there's an air conditioning now, but when it was down, I just sit on the bed and just look and just stare and just feel that pervasive, that stillness, that has always been here. And just I was falling in love.
Mhm.
I guess that's the best way to put it. And I'm just grateful.
Yeah, me too. Mm. Gratefulness is.
Gratitude for everything, actually. Even when there are hard times that happen here,
Yeah.
it's all good. There's no judgment, or at least I don't have a judgment, but there may be thoughts of judgments that come up, but there's no agreements with it
Yeah.
anymore. That's where the warp speed is. Like, did I just do that, or did that just happen, or
Yeah, there's no interest in making it into a thing, you know. But it's allowed to have that one fleeting moment to express itself and then poof, gone. Hmm. Would you mind if I posted this on my channel, or do you want me to keep it
not at
private?
all. I don't mind. I don't mind. It's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. I'll share it with you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You too, Indira. Anytime you want to talk again, just let me know. And we can talk privately too. We don't have to record it.
Okay, that's awesome.
All right, Indira. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye bye.